My ex-best friend is trying to manipulate her way back into my life. My ex-best friend recently attempted suicide, but I do not care one bit. She slept with my boyfriend behind my back. I'd been dating my boyfriend for about 3 years. I thought I'd marry this guy someday. This was something I told my best friend. Well, about a month ago while my boyfriend was in the shower, I saw a text notification pop up on his phone. We look at each other's notifications all the time, so I grabbed his phone to see it. It was from her, asking if they were still on for tonight and if she should wear his favorite dress. I saved screenshots of their conversations, ranging from explicit pics to talking about me directly. I sent them to myself. I showed him the messages when he came out of the bathroom and demanded he explain himself about them. I couldn't contain how upset and angry and hurt I was. An argument ensued where I told him he was disgusting and I left his place. Shortly after arriving home, I started getting bombarded with calls and texts from my best friend. I answered none of her calls. I couldn't stomach hearing her voice, but her texts ranged from, "She never meant to hurt me. My boyfriend hit on her first. It didn't mean anything." Then it got angry, saying I should hear her out. If I was a real friend, I would take her calls. I'm being petty and childish for not listening to her side. Then back to sad, saying I was her closest friend in the world and she didn't want to lose me. My boyfriend was strangely quiet during this time. After a few days I got myself together enough to send them both messages. Maybe it was cowardly, but I didn't have the strength to call them. I told my now ex-boyfriend that we were done and I won't give cheaters any chances with me. He responded by trying to call me, but after the third or fourth attempt, he gave up. He sent me a final message saying it wasn't that big of a deal, that they just had intimacy a few times and nothing more, but agreeing he didn't want to date me anymore. My ex-best friend was more persistent after I told her I wanted nothing to do with her. Day after day I'd get messages and calls from her. Demanding to talk. Demanding we resolve this. Demanding I not say anything to anyone. Saying she's stopped seeing him. Saying she'll end herself if I don't talk to her. Really effed up stuff. I ended up confiding to a mutual friend about what was going on because I was seriously beginning to wonder if I was being a bitch. This friend reassured me that my feelings were justified, however I wasn't expecting this friend to spread around what happened. The gossip spread like wildfire and a few days ago my ex-best friend tried to take her life. I said nothing. I haven't visited her in the hospital. I haven't sent any messages to her family. Now her older sister keeps messaging me, telling me I'm a heartless bitch for leaving her at her lowest. For not trying to prevent this and that everyone makes mistakes, and that her sister didn't intentionally hurt me. My ex-best friend is trying to manipulate her way back into my life. My mother came over and wanted a conversation with me about my ex-best friend Nikki attempting suicide. She asked if I'd spoken to Nikki yet and I said no. She asked if I was going to and I said no. I was trying to be as firm as possible because I knew what she was about to do. She asked, "Don't you think you should?" My response was no. I don't see why I should. I sent her a final message almost a month ago. This is where things began to really go south in the conversation. "Mum, love, she's in the hospital right now. She needs all the support she can get. You're meant to be her friend." I didn't even know about her condition until her mother called me. Me, really? I'm meant to be her friend after she slept with my boyfriend Josh behind my back? I didn't say anything about her because I didn't want to talk about her. Mum, are you really going to hold a silly grudge? I understand she hurt you, but she's hurting so much more right now. Me, she's hurting? Mum, yes you both are. I raised you to be a kind, forgiving person. Why can't you forgive her? Me, what? Like how Dad should have forgiven you for cheating too? I admit this was a low blow for me and the conversation spiraled into an argument from there with both of us saying some not so kind things to each other. Eventually I decided the conversation was over because we were just going around in circles and heading into yelling territory, so I told her to leave and I'll try talking to her again when we've both calmed down. When she was leaving, she said this, "I hope you're not as cruel as your father." I'm typically not an angry person, but this infuriated and hurt me. I lived 50-50 between my parents. They both made sure I had everything I could need or want, but she felt her situation and struggles were undeserved. Dad never helped with bills or payments that didn't involve me. She expected more. Cheaters always do. I didn't say anything when she left, I just blocked her number and social media accounts and cried. She cared more about the girl who had hurt her daughter than said daughter. She realized pretty quick what had happened and came back the next day, but Dad told her I didn't want to talk to her and she had to leave. It took maybe half an hour before she finally left. The new few days she kept trying to reach me through other people, but I stayed silent. A few more days later, I decided I felt calm enough to talk to her and unblocked her. We spoke over the phone, which wasn't as exciting as above. Basically it was her apologizing and telling me she was wrong for trying to force me to forgive Nikki, that she'll respect my decision but tried to suggest I think about it. I very firmly told her I was not forgiving Nikki. She just said okay. Things didn't really feel the same with us. She kept giving me updates about Nikki. The first time she did it, she told me Nikki had been put on a 72-hour psych hold, assessed and eventually released. I told her I didn't want any updates on Nikki's situation. I won't stop her from checking in, but I didn't want to be involved. She complained and said she thought I'd want to visit her, but I threatened to block her again if she kept pushing and she shut up. Nothing was mentioned about Nikki for a couple of weeks before Mom again broke my boundary and brought her up, telling me about how Josh had stopped talking to her and how Nikki needed a shoulder to cry on. I again told her I didn't want to know and this was her last chance not to bring her up or I would cut her from my life. She complained again but eventually promised it wouldn't happen again. Maybe I should have learned from my mistakes because I know my mother. She doesn't take no for an answer. It was really quiet for a while. My friends and I had all basically carried on from what happened, and even though I know a couple of them still occasionally talk to Nikki, they never bring her up around me or tell her how I'm doing. I thought I could finally close this chapter on my life, but nope. Today my mother called me and asked if I wanted to get lunch. I hadn't seen her in a while, so what was the harm? I head to the Weatherspoons we plan to eat at, and who do I find sitting with my mom? Nikki and her sister Tammy. As soon as Nikki sees me, she gets up and tries to hug me, but I just raise a hand and take a step back, and this girl has the audacity to look upset. Mom immediately knows she's effed up because she's scrambling with all of the excuses. It hurts to see you two fall apart like this, you were so close. I thought you'd forgive her by now. And my favorite, she made a mistake, she misses you. During this time, Nikki has been quiet and I can see Tammy's glaring at me. I'm just so effing angry and upset. I honestly didn't think she'd pull something like this. I wanted to leave and cry, but I looked at Nikki and said, for someone who's made a mistake, she sure hasn't apologized for it, yet. She had this guilty look on her face and muttered something about me having her blocked and having no way to. I said, is that really all you have to say? And she just looked at me confused. I was done. I turned to leave and her sister started yelling after me, saying that I owed Nikki a second chance with all the trauma I put her through. While Nikki was begging me to just listen to her and talk to her. I told them all to F off and never contact me again and left. I managed to get out of there before Tammy started a fight and went home, where I sent my mom a text a while ago telling her she'd better lose my number because she no longer has a spot in my life. Then I blocked her and just cried. My dad's been doing his best to comfort me, but it just hurts so bad that my own mother did this to me.